Okay, Assalamualaikum semua and very good morning to all of you. So today I just want to share with you some videos that you can learn during your practice, because during the COVID-19 that we know everyone has to practice themselves. So I make this initiative is to create the video so then you can use the video during practice at home. So the topic that I want to show to you today is about resting blood pressure. I believe that you have learned this with other lecturers or for the subject like physiology or exercise physiology. So during my subject for exercise rehab, it's very important to understand, not just understand the theory of what is blood pressure. At the same time, you need to know how to measure the blood pressure, because if you want to pass this subject, you need to know how can you really find the way to know whether this is the correct blood pressure. How to do this? You need to know the two basic components on blood pressure. The reason that we want to measure the blood pressure is we want to see whether two parameters, whether the systolic blood pressure, which is the above one, and the lower one is the diastolics. So I won't touch anything about the classification of hypertension for the systolic and the diastolic, but what I want to stress on is why we need to do a manual way of measuring the blood pressure during exercise. You know that we have two types, automatics, which is if you go find in the Shopee, or if you go find in some other places like the other doctors also, they measure a resting blood pressure using the automatic. But since that you are exercise physiologist, if you finish this subject or you pass this subject, you must able to do the manual way. Same with the doctors, they need to do that in the manual way. So there are two types of measuring blood pressure. One, either you use the dial, you can see that this is the dial way of measuring blood pressure, which is you can see dial meaning is the needle here. So they use more air pressure. So there is another way. I think you know that using the mercury, more accurate. Another one is we know that the automatic blood pressure. Okay, so I want to show you another thing is the stethoscopes. Okay, you will see that this is stethoscope. So I think you already purchased this in Shopee, although it's not really medical, but you can use for your practice. So the function of stethoscopes is, you see that they have what you call it, the diaphragm of the stethoscope is to listen the Korokov sound, because when you do a blood pressure, basically you want to find the first Korokov sounds of the heart, where the first Korokov sound, if you read in the manual book that I gave to you, is basically to listen the occlusion of the blood, which is that you pump using this what you call this. So when you inflate, then the cuff will block the main artery of your arm. Then the release of that will release with the blood flow. The blood flow is actually trigger the first Korokov sound, which is a sound like a boom, so that you can listen from the stethoscope. Okay, so the reason why we do not want to use the automatic blood pressure, because there are some limitation using the automatic blood pressure, especially during exercise. Because when you're exercising, there will be a lot of noise in the blood flow, because there are different between resting blood flow versus with exercise blood flow. Because exercise blood flow are more turbulence, because of you increase your stroke volume, you increase your cardiac output, you increase your heart rate, and so on. That's why more blood flow actually goes to the skeletal tissue, because the demand is there. So this kind of noise basically cause a lot of interference while you're measuring your blood pressure. So that's why if you want to know in exercise, you cannot measuring your blood pressure, exercise blood pressure, using automatic, because the automatic blood pressure cannot detect that, because there's so many interference of the blood flow of the other muscles or adjacent muscle or tissue during exercise. So this noise basically cause a lot of problems for the machine to detect which is the correct cough sound. That's why you need to do it in manual way, okay? Because the manual way you have the ability to listen carefully the first cough sound and the last cough sound, because these things will help you to determine whether you are correctly identify or determine the first systolic blood pressure, and the last will be the diastolic blood pressure. Alright class, as I mentioned earlier, so we're going to do that. So before that, you need to know exactly all the equipments that we're going to apply or implement for blood pressure. So this is what we call blood pressure arm cuff, okay? So it depends on the range. Some they have a bigger arm like man or big person, some have small arms. So when I first ordered this, I tried to use universal size, which is the bigger one. So be careful when you want to purchase this cuff, so make sure that you choose the right size, because we are afraid when you choose it in the wrong size, then the reading of the blood pressure will not be the same all the time. Okay, so let's have a look here. So you will see that all cuff they give a direction. So meaning that the arrow here is giving the information that is the point of the brachial artery. Okay, the brachial artery, which is the around this arm between your biceps and your brachioradialis. Okay, so that is the point of the arrow, which is that you need to point on. Okay, so you need, before that, you need to know where is the brachial artery. So it should be within, you can see that antecubital fossa, which is your elbow crease. Okay, and you need to make sure that, okay, this will be the place that you need to place your cuff. Okay, so you need to choose the left hand instead of right hand, because the left hand close to the heart, so the reading much more accurate. But yeah, you can choose on the right or left, but we prefer to choose more on the left. Okay, so this is how you place the arm cuff. Okay, make sure there will be no tangling on the tube. Alright, and grab it firmly. So you will see that the artery is pointed to the brachial artery. Alright, so at the same time, the position of the arm should be rest on the table at the chest level. So why? Because it will give more resting mode to the heart, so the reading will be more accurate. Okay, the palm should face outwards, not this way, should be palm upwards. So the position of the examiner should be opposite in this way. Okay, opposite in this way, so it's much easier for you. So then your right hand can hold this brachial artery, and then at the same time you can check your left hand or left finger to check whether the resting heart rate should be normal. Because remember one thing, someone that we didn't know what is happening before. Sometimes the person should be rushing to come into your session, so they will increase some heart rate. So that's why you need to make sure the person should sit down nicely, calm. And then the reason that you put the left hand or right hand is basically to check whether they are already in the baseline of the heart rate or not. So it may help that that you are really taking a correct way of arresting blood pressure. Okay, so this is the palm. Okay, the palm have two valves. You can see that the valve here is controlling the air. Okay, you see, if you turn to the left, against the clock time is basically to open the valve. If you want to close, just turn back. Okay, so then you close. At the same time, I prefer, because this involves a lot of fine motor skill. If you have dominant hand, if you prefer your right hand as dominant hand, you choose this more on the right, because the skill that you need to make sure during this measuring of resting blood pressure, you need to control and releasing the valve. Okay, the air, you cannot go very fast, because if you go very fast, you cannot really get the first chord of sound. Okay, you need to be very precise on how you determine the first chord of sound. Okay, so if you pump, then there will be air goes to the cuff. Okay, you see. At the same time, when you pump, you will see in the dial it's already increased. Okay, up to 120. So the rule of thumb, maybe you can. The rule of thumb is basically you need to pump maximally to 220. Okay, so meaning that you are really pumped maximally, so total occlusion of the brachial artery. Okay, so then you can use the stethoscope to be placed underneath. Underneath. The reason that why I don't use my dominant hand to hold this diaphragm, because it doesn't cost a lot of skills or motor fine control, rather than choose to control the valve. Okay, because the valve is much more difficult to release the air. Okay, so you see, if you release too fast, you will listen that the air go and the dial go back to zero, so they will be deflected off the cuff. Okay, so what you need to do at the same time, don't start yet. You need to know your stethoscope. Okay, they have a switch on. They have, look here. Turn to the right is switch on. Turn to the left is switch off. So put this in your ear. If you turn on, then if you put some touch on the diaphragm of the stethoscope, you may listen there already a sound that you very clear or loud from stethoscope. Okay, and then you can turn off if you've done that. So what you can do now, you can put this using your left hand. Okay, place underneath of the cuff, and then use your thumb, press the stethoscope really perpendicular straight to the brachial artery. The reason that you put your finger underneath of the elbow, basically to extend, so then you get more pressure, more clear pressure to the brachial artery to listen a very clear sounds of your chord of sound. Okay, so once we are ready, you see, so what you can do now, you can, okay, maybe you can start holding your right hand. Like my case, I'm using my right hand, and you can close the valve, make sure you close the valve, and start pumping, and have a look on the blood pressure. Okay, and you stop at 220. Then you can start listen, put the stethoscope on your ear here, and release slowly. Once finished, make sure there will be no end, and then the needle return to zero, and you can open the cuff. So, okay, let's discuss this. The common mistake made by students when you pump, when you don't give some pressure enough, so you don't find the first correct sound. The first correct sound is very important for you, that to confirm this is your systolic. So how it looks and how it sounds. It sounds like a first boom, 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 and then the sound must become louder, boom, 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 and once total release of occlusion, then you go back to the laminar phase. Then you will listen the last cortical sound. That's what we call your diastolic. So if you don't get the first cortical sound, or you're not sure whether it's that first cortical sound or not, it is important for you that you can try pump again. It's okay, but you can make some estimation which one, which dial numbers that you are not sure. Could be 140, they have two sound, so you can pump back to 150 and try to get slowly, and then whether is that 150 or 140 or 130. So make sure you can get the correct number. So meaning that you can pump again, okay, re-pump and then get back the correct reading of the first systolic as well as the diastolic. You can do that, but you cannot, if you find the way that it's difficult to find the blood pressure, the reading of the blood pressure, it's okay. Release back and then stay calm. Talk to the person. Let's be more relaxing for you, especially because you are the person who make assessment. And then you can redo again and then try to find the first systolic. Okay, so this thing you need to practice from time to time. It cannot just get in one night. So I will encourage you to practice with your siblings. Okay, so then before you test to the other person, make sure that you are correctly find your reading on systolic and then diastolic. So I wish you very good luck for everyone. So you can start practicing this. So maybe if you can take a video to me and share to me, so maybe we can discuss for the next class. Thank you.